Let's now cut across to the press conference on reduced GST slabs in the national capital, where the Finance Minister of India, Nirmala Sitharaman, is currently addressing. Let's listen in. As we try to get her sound, India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is currently chairing the 56th GST Council meeting in the national capital. She says that the country's goods and services tax will have only 2 slabs when the new rates become effective. We'll just try to listen in to this council meeting and try to understand what the leaders are currently speaking about.
Something which we will get to as we reach there.
238. Ansel Magazine from Indian Express. Just a clarification on the tobacco part, because I believe when GST was rolled out, Centre had the powers to levy NCCD on tobacco. So how will it get levied on, say, something like pan masala? If you could elaborate that. And secondly, was there any decision regarding electric vehicles? Because that was also one of the proposals submitted by the GUI.
See, on the pan masala, tobacco and everything else, under the GST, till such a time the loan is repaid, as I said, the 28% plus the compensation cess will run. Once I clear the loan, they all come to 40%. And that's what is the GST. Any?
EV remains at where it was. Yes, it remains at where it was, 5.
214.
चूंकि अभी काफ़ी खबर चल रही थी कि जो 2500 जो अभी ब्रांडेड 1000 रुपये से ऊपर का जो शर्ट एंड फुटवेयर्स है, मैं राजीव हूँ सर दैनिक जागरण से, तो उस पे उसको 2500 उसकी सीमा की जा रही थी. जो 2500 से ऊपर है उनको उन पे ज़्यादा टैक्स लगेगा. तो ऐसा कुछ हुआ या अब सब पे जो भी फुटवेयर और गारमेंट्स होंगे 1000 रुपये से ऊपर के भी उन पे भी सिर्फ 5% ही लगेगा? इस पे स्मॉल कार, मिड साइज कार, तो क्या इसमें 1200 सीसी से ऊपर वाले सभी कार पे 40% लगेगा?
जहाँ तक फुटवेयर का सवाल है, आज के दिन 2 रेट्स थे. 1000 रुपये से कम वालों के ऊपर 12% और 1000 रुपये से ऊपर वाले के ऊपर 18% लगता था. सो जो चेंज किए गए हैं, जैसे आपको ज्ञात है कि मैडम ने पहले बताया कि 12% का रेट अभी नहीं है. तो 2 रेट जो अभी हैं वो 5 और 18 के हैं. 5% पे जो 2500 से कम वाली वस्तुएं वाले फुटवेयर हैं और 18% पे जो 2500 से ऊपर वाली वस्तुएं हैं. आपका दूसरा सवाल किस इशू से था?
सीसी.
हाँ, मैडम ने आपको बताया कि छोटी कारें जो हैं वो 18 पे होंगी और बाकी सारी कारें जो हैं वो 40 पे होंगी. डेफिनेशन तो आई थॉट वो तो डिपार्टमेंट MHRT मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट रेगुलेटर का है. पेट्रोल की 1200 सीसी और डीजल की 1500 सीसी होती है और उसके साथ शायद लेंथ का भी एक लिमिटेशन होता है. तो जो उनका रेगुलेशंस के हिसाब से छोटी कारें हैं वो हमारी 18 पे रहेंगी. हम लोग अलग से कोई नया डेफिनेशन उसका नहीं बना रहे हैं.
45.
I had a related question on hotels and on air travel. Again, there were 2 classifications there. So if, and I suppose, I think all these would be in the detailed press release that you'd be issuing, but if you could just help us.
269.
Thank you, ma'am. This is Girish from Mint.
Ma'am, some states had suggested that there could be a new duty imposed on, items on the 28%, which will move to 40%. Has that been considered? And secondly, ma'am, there is no cess applicable on high-end cars, which has moved to 40%, right, ma'am?
Once an item has moved to 40%, there's nothing more to be added.
Okay, ma'am.
Because the maximum rate which you can levy on a car, on any item is 40%. And in the 40% category, we've put all the tobacco and tobacco-related sin goods and super luxury items only.
Number 3.
Hello ma'am, this is Priyoshmita from Informist Media. Ma'am, first I wanted a clarification. Are we still looking at discontinuing compensation cess around November? As in, is that the timeline we are following to repay the loans? And secondly, states had pitched for some kind of a mechanism to compensate them after the rate changes are effective because of the revenue loss. So has there been any discussion, and is the center looking at something on those lines? Thank you.
I think I've mentioned it clearly, till such a time that the loans don't get repaid. We will continue with the 28% items and the compensation cess collection over it, particularly only those items which I read out, tobacco-related products, and they will continue till such a time I repay the loan, which is the council has authorized the finance minister to stop that collection the moment the loan is repaid. I cannot speculate on the time now whether it is October or November, but it will be well within, I think, this calendar year.
Number 2.
I think, first of all, I would like to request the media to look at the GST Council as where the center and the states are seated together. I mentioned this in the council also. The center may be a 1/3 partner, the states put together can be 2/3 partner. But we're all in it together. So anything that which is gained or lost is for everybody. It's not as though states have lost, the center's not gained. If all of us have lost, all of us have lost. And I don't think, and I'm glad that the Revenue Secretary had made this point in the council, it's a revenue instance. The incidence is what is the matter. It's not a static situation. Once the rates have come down per the economic theory that you may want to quote, the buoyancy goes up. People come out to buy more. And therefore, this discussion has happened in today's council. And I have put this argument before, that the center and the states are seated equally. And any gain or any foregone, none of that is perceived, because when rates are coming down, we expect the market to be more buoyant, people to come out and spend more. However, all of us are sitting there together. Compensate for states' loss, even center is losing. If anything, center loses more in a way. Because 50-50, you divide from my 50, another 41 goes back to the states. So I want the media, particularly those who are covering the economy, finance ministry, to understand in the GST Council, the center and the states are together in it. Nobody is a donor and nobody is a donee within the GST Council.
Number 2.
Pallavi from...
Can I just supplement, because this issue has come from many. So our earlier request was, there are two parts to this issue, and I would just request the indulgence of the media also on this. This repeated use of the word called revenue loss. So obviously somebody has lost to somebody or something to that effect. Kindly understand, this is a tax rationalization exercise which is resulting in reduction of rates of taxes to be paid, let us say, by a common man, rates paid by on food, on health, on agricultural implements, on labor-oriented sectors like job work. I am not very sure whether loss is the right interpretation of government saying that we have given money to a consumer. It is an economy that we are talking about. Both of them are there. After all, the money which government will not collect as tax is going to be remaining in the pockets of that consumer who will end up using it. So my request is this terminology loss, because it presents the impression differently from, and which is why I had requested. There is a revenue implication, naturally. So the second part to this understanding is that revenue implication is a dynamic number because it will depend on how response happens. Mathematically, one can calculate that can only be done on historical data. But that historical data may not end up to be true because we do expect behavior of consumer changing, buoyancy factors changing, compliance improving, and this has been the historical reality. You would remember that after compensation cess went away, the buoyancies really went up of GST. So we do expect things to move in the positive direction. We have done our numbers and we believe it is fiscally sustainable. The number that I told you is based on 23-24, and even with projections and expectation on other things turning in the positive side, which we are hearing both from the consumers as well as from the industry, we expect this exercise to be fiscally sustainable.
Okay, I'm Pallavi from CNN News 18. Ma'am, two things over here. There were 8 states which actually said that we want something called the state level GST on products like alcohol, petrol, and real estate. Was this even discussed at the GST meeting today? And second is that they are all talking, I'm sorry to use that word, but revenue loss. 15,000 crore revenue loss is what Sitharaman said. I know there are states like Karnataka and Kerala who insisted on that, and I think that is why your meeting was delayed. How do you want to actually address that? Because many of them are also facing problems like they're talking about floods. And finally, when you are talking about a GST restructuring, was the tariff turmoil with America an important consideration?
The tariff turmoil is not a matter which influenced the GST reform, because we've been at it now for more than 1.5 years. Some group of ministers was working on rate rationalization, some other group of ministers a bit later was working on insurance, and so on. And compensation cess was a reality, that it is going to end the moment you paid back the loan. None of this has anything to do with the tariffs. So, no, there's nothing to do with the tariffs at all. One. Second, you were talking about petrol, diesel, 8 states. None of that was subject of our discussion because that is not part of the GST Council at all. And the third, numbers are being thrown around. This much loss, that much loss. You've just heard the Revenue Secretary detail on the basis of 23-24 numbers. Am I right? 23-24 data, which is the last available for all the categories. And he stated what is the net amount that we'll have to be looking at. So there is nothing more. I'm not going to join forces to argue on, oh, somebody said this much, somebody else said that much. Our data is here, we put it, and that is coming out to all of you all as well in the press note.
237.
मैम तरुण शर्मा फ्रॉम जी बिजनेस। मैम 2 सवाल हैं, एक क्लैरिटी के लिए पूछना चाहूँगा, जो टैक्स इंसिडेंस है, आपने कहा कि हाईएस्ट ब्रैकेट जो रहेगा वो 40% रहेगा, तो जो अभी तक सेस लगता था वो नहीं लगेगा, अब जो भी चीज़ें होंगी वो मैक्सिमम 40% पे होंगी टबैको प्रोडक्ट्स को छोड़ के। और दूसरा सवाल मैम, जो अनमैन्ड एयरक्राफ्ट्स, एक ड्रोन के लिए भी एक एजेंडा था, क्या मैम उस पर भी कोई फैसला हो पाया? एक चीज़ मैम, एक क्लैरिटी और चाहेंगे कि जो डीलर्स के पास अभी गाड़ियां खड़ी हैं, यदि वो 22 तारीख से पहले 22 तारीख के बाद बिकती हैं तो वो किस कैटेगरी में आएंगी? क्या जो अभी का जो टैक्स स्ट्रक्चर है उसमें कैलकुलेट की जाएंगी या नए वाले टैक्स स्ट्रक्चर में कैलकुलेट की जाएंगी?
शुरू में जैसे माननीय मंत्री ने आपको बताया कि ये हमारा अप टू रेट जीएसटी स्ट्रक्चर हो गया है, तो 5 और 18 आर द रेट्स. 40 is what we consider it as a special rate, and on the lower side, apart from exemption, there are some other special rates. Special rates are meant to take care of either very, very unique sectors or unique requirements or certain policy positions that government may have had on those. Typically, the special rates are considered special because they are not by their very nature part of a general structure. So they are not expected to be open-ended. It is not like this is a rate, then you can swing people things between here and there. 40 is expected, items have been identified and will positioned there. This is the way in which, that is why this is called GST rate rationalization structure. So it's a rate structure itself which has been rationalized, within which then certain principles have been followed to fit things. That is point number one. What was your second question? I would suggest that specific items and procedural issues off the cuff response will not be a good idea. Department will be issuing detailed instructions about everything, and we will see to it that those who need it receive it in transparent fashion, in a timely fashion. वही जो आपने बताया ना, ट्रांजिशन वाले जितने इश्यूज हैं इम्प्लीमेंटेशन रिलेटेड, आज जीएसटी काउंसिल का डिसीजन हुआ है, तो उसको ऑफ द कफ रिस्पांस देना ठीक नहीं होगा. वो हमारे डिपार्टमेंट डिटेल में सारे इश्यूज को एड्रेस करते हुए जवाब देगा उसका. और आज इसके बाद मैडम ने जैसे इंस्ट्रक्शन दिया है, एक फ्रीक्वेंटली आस्क्ड क्वेश्चंस का एक लिस्ट भी इशू होगा, प्रेस नोट होगा जिसमें सारे डिटेल्स होंगे आइटम वाइज जो आप देख सकते हैं.
189.
मैम, मैं आलोक प्रियदर्शी CNBC आवाज़ से. सबसे पहले जीएसटी काउंसिल के चेयरपर्सन के तौर पर आपको बधाई, क्योंकि आपने पूरे कंसेंसस के साथ ही इसका लागू करवाया. मेरा सवाल ये है कि रेट में कटौती हुई है, सबको फ़ायदा होगा, लेकिन ये रेट आम आदमी तक इसका फ़ायदा पहुँचे उसके लिए क्या कोई मैकेनिज्म बनाया जाएगा? क्योंकि एंटी प्रॉफिटरिंग मैकेनिज्म अभी है नहीं, या ऐसी एंटी प्रॉफिटरिंग बॉडी है नहीं, तो कैसे इसको रेट को हम जो कंज्यूमर है उस तक पहुँचाएंगे?
That's the Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman at the GST conference being held in New Delhi. The rates that she and the Council have announced will come into effect on September 22nd. She says the state and the centre should be clubbed together because these changes affect everyone. And the slabs are 4, which have been reduced to 5. Some have been reduced to 0 from 5. Some have been reduced from 12%, from 18% to 12%. Some have been reduced from 18% or 28% to 18%.